Hi everyone, this is Zoph. You are watching Simply SCAdian, no title required, and we have a very wonderful guest joining us today. And I will let Lucas introduce him. Take it away, Lucas.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to Simply SCAdian. No title required. As always, our mission is to bring you people from throughout the known world who may or may not be on that path to getting their peerage, to getting some kind of title and whatnot, who we think that you would really benefit from learning about, from talking to, and maybe get you to reflect a little bit in your own corner of the known world. So, who are those people that maybe haven't achieved that level yet that you think um, have a lot to say, have a very interesting background, or they are very knowledgeable in their subject area. We have again, as I say every time, talked to just an incredible amount of people in the last 5 years that we've been doing this, from all walks of life. So as always, the mandate is this: who are we talking to next? Reach out to us through that Facebook page. Reach out to us however you can. Let us know who we should have on the show. Maybe it's you. Maybe you know somebody in your corner of the sky that we should be talking to. So, and again, everything is on the table. Everything. We want to talk to you about whatever it is you're into. All right. Fighting, fencing, all of the martial arts, great. We want to talk to you about brewing and venting and textiles and research. I mean, we've had some people on that literally their bag is just research. And that's awesome because maybe you want to start somewhere and you don't know where to start, and one of our guests can do that for you. So get on that Facebook page. Let us know who we're talking to. I will say this forever until you make it happen. I want to talk to somebody from overseas. Where are those people? The known world is the known world. All right. We know they're there. We'll talk to them. Okay. We've got some new plans in place for how we can budget our time better and talk to those people when maybe it's more convenient for them. So let us know who those people are. But right now, we're going to talk to somebody who I'm excited because they are from my area of the world. All right. And today we'd like to welcome to the show Phelippe le Vigneron. All right. He's a SCAdian since 2015 in the barony of Setmore Swamp in the East Kingdom. 14th century French persona. I'm just gonna hit the highlights for you guys. Um, uh, Bardic. All right, guys, I'm telling you, you got to hear it. It's great. Currently learning the hammered dulcimer. I know we're going to talk about that today. Just into all sorts of things. Leatherwork, period footwear. All right. I don't think that's ever come up on the show, so we should do that today too. Late period garb, brewing. I've had some, so we can talk about that. And dabbles in inkle loom weaving and knitting. All right, and I'm going to tell you, not too shabby on the fencing field. So, Philippe, welcome to the show.
Thank you. I'm excited to be here. Thanks for having me.
You. All right, so how did you find the SCA?
I love that my entry into the SCA is so different. Um, I actually came across the SCA in 2015, and I have my wife to blame for me being here. So she was a costume designer, or is a costume designer. She works for the University of East Stroudsburg, or East Stroudsburg University. And back in 2015, she was working on a production of Macbeth and was looking for like historical costume patterns and things like that. And she remembered back in college that she came across the SCA when she did a production of Hamlet and wanted historical costumes. And so she did a little bit of research on it, and found that we had some local chapters near us. And so she knew right away back then that if she was going to get me to wear funny clothes and go to a historical event with her, she was really going to have to sell it. So she put together like a presentation essentially and was like, "Hey, there's this thing that I know about, called the SCA, and they put on these medieval historical events, and you get to wear different clothing." And so yeah, so she sort of made a big pitch to me because traditionally it's not something that I probably would have been interested in at the time. But she showed me pictures, she showed me videos, she showed me like a video of Penzik, and at that point I was like, I'm all in. Let's go. Let's see what happens. And we went to our first Scola in somewhere, I can't even remember where it was at this point, but somewhere near Bacale. But we went to a Scola, and Bethany got me some really nice clothes to wear for our first event. And I met up with some people that were interested in music and, having a music degree that sort of spoke to me. And so since then we've been playing ever since.
And what's a scola?
So Escola is an event that's really centered on learning, and it sort of has different classes that you can attend that are in a particular area. And this one had, how to research in the SCA. There was some music classes. There were some classes on fiber arts. There was an embroidery class. But it's just basically a learning opportunity. It's really centered on the arts and the sciences within the community. And so there wasn't any fighting or anything like that, which is something that I also got interested in as well. But I will have to say that at that event, the Scola was amazing. The people were really friendly, but it was the feast, I think, that really sort of sold me on the whole experience. There was such a feeling of camaraderie and being welcomed that I sort of really responded to. That yes, all of that was interesting, and the classes were great, but the people are really what made it so special, and that's what kept me coming back.
Well, so you talked a little bit about like what kind of brought you to the table was music. Mundanely, was that always a passion for you, and then that's what kind of dovetailed, or so? I mean, talk a little-
Yeah, definitely. For me, mundanely, when I was in college, I have a music industry degree. So I took all of the theories and I played piano, I played French horn, I played trumpet, I learned to sing in college. I did a lot of musical theater back in college as well, a lot of theater. So performance has sort of always been in my wheelhouse. And singing was one that I took a lot of lessons back in college. So when I saw all of the the musicians that were there, and I was able to just walk in and start singing and playing with them, and it was something that I didn't know to expect, and it was really interesting and fun. So yeah, it sort of just dovetailed right into some of the things that I have some training in.
And that's how you met your Laurel, correct?
Yeah, she was at that event. So, Masterina Margrethe La Fauvel is my Laurel. And we met at that event with Sabine de Kerbriant, and they were there. And yeah, so it was they sort of like gravitated. They saw a tenor that could sing with them, and they were like, "No, come with us. Let's sing." And I spent, about an hour just working with them, and it was a lot of fun.
But then you started diving into other arts and sciences. What was your next foray?
Yeah, I did. I think initially after that event, I was always sort of interested in fencing. My nephew was a did some Olympic fencing, and I went to one of his classes, and I got to see it, and I was really interested in it. And we found a fencing practice that was so close to where we were, and so that was really sort of the next gateway for me to really keep going and doing something within the society. So I started actually through fencing. And then after that was when I sort of kept moving into the arts and the sciences. Music was always there, Bardic was there as well when I sort of learned that there was a whole field to do with the Bardic arts and performing and learning stories and telling stories and performing monologues. Um, but I worked at a theater back in college. I worked for Heritage Repertory Theater, and they had a show that had a lot of knitwear in it at one point, and so there was a lot of learning how to knit mundanely. So I was like, okay, well, this is a thing that I can do here too. So I started with knitting, and I'm a little bit like a magpie. What's the next shiny thing that I can try and do and see, and what's going to be interesting? And so I just started picking up things and seeing what I wanted to do. Um, so knitting was there, and then very quickly, as evidenced by my surname for my persona, which is Le Vigneron, I started brewing. So a vigneron is a wine grower in France, and I we have a house in the country, so I've tried planting my own grapes, and I've yet to successfully get them to grow. So I'm still working on that. But I know that I needed to learn how to make wine, and so I started brewing, and that's when I've worked with wine and meads and trying a bunch of different things there and seeing how it works.
What's been your most successful thing so far? The thing you think came out the best?
Oh, from a brewing perspective, I had a juniper clove mead, which was probably my second mead that I made. That was the flavor palette on it was so unique and probably the best one. I've yet to be able to recreate it as well as I did that first time. But juniper and clove has such an interesting flavor palette. So I've really enjoyed that one. I still brew now, and I'm working on some other small projects, things that we can just drink that are nice. But I'm currently working on doing a little bit of research with some of my brewing to sort of recreate a 13th century English recipe. But I've also noticed that when we are brewing modernly, we use a lot of like glass carboys or plastic, but they wouldn't have been able to use those back in period. So I think, and the vessel that you use can impart so many different flavors. And so I'm trying to come through and figure out what are the vessels that they would have had access to, and how does that change the flavor profile of the things that we're working on. So that's a little bit of a research project that I'm currently working on. That's been a lot of fun.
So do you enter A&S competitions? Have you entered the East Kingdom A&S or your local
Not
ones?
Yeah, I've done a lot of the local ones. I haven't done anything sort of on the kingdom scale right now. I don't not I guess not for any particular reason, but I'm not the best, and writing papers is not always my favorite. And that's a big portion of the arts and sciences. I think that I much prefer to make the thing and then share the thing and enjoy the thing with others. And I think that as I come across something that really has something different and unique to say, I probably will. I think there's something interesting about the Vessels project that has a little bit of a different spin, but there's a ton of people that are knitting. There's a ton of people that are making garb far better than I can do it now. And I don't have anything extra to say in those fields at the moment. But if I come across something that has something unique, then certainly I probably will. But in locally, if I'm working on something or making a thing, I want to show people that are my friends and we can talk about it. So I tend to do things a little bit more locally.
Okay, yeah, you got your. We do that to each other all the time. We both take breaths and then we look at each other. So Bardic, then in Bardic, where do your I mean, do you tell stories and do songs specifically from your persona, or do you have a favorite time period or type of Bardic that you do? You know what I mean? And then
Yeah.
and then we'll get to the new instrument in a minute. We'll talk
Okay.
about that. But yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Bardic is a really fun one and an interesting one for me. I sort of like to experience all of it. Again, I have a music degree, so I think singing comes the most naturally to me. I think the period instruments are a little bit harder for me to pick up. But I have a Citol and I enjoy playing it. I have tons of recorders. I have all of them and I'm learning through all of those as well. And so I do sort of enjoy playing that stuff, but comedy is gold. And I think anything that allows me to be able to make people have fun and laugh and enjoy themselves is something that always has resonated with me. And so for me, I think telling funny stories or, doing comedic monologues, giving people a moment to like take a step back and be lost in a story and laugh along the way, I think is really what sort of makes me um is what brings me joy. And so I'm always constantly on the lookout for funny songs or funny stories. Um, and, and so like currently I think I'm doing a lot of pieces from like some of the short stories that Shakespeare wrote. Like he had a collection of stories that are attributed to him, whether he wrote them or not, but they're attributed to him. And a lot of them are really comedic. And I sort of enjoy sort of learning through those. So they're not particularly period appropriate for me in that way, especially when I'm communicating and telling funny stories. I want it to be in English. My persona is French. But I've definitely learned some 14th century French music from Guillaume de Machaut. But I also really sort of love a little bit more late period polyphonic music. Thomas Morley is probably one of my favorites. John Dowland, I love to sing any of his stuff. I'm sort of all over the place, but I think if it's funny or if it sits well within my range, I'm going to do it because I enjoy it.
Now, I understand the East Kingdom has competition for their Bardic champion. Have you ever entered? Is that a goal of yours to be king or consort's bard?
Yeah, I have entered. I've only entered once, and it was back in 2018, 2019, somewhere right around there. Um, and it was a great experience, and I really enjoyed it. And I like performing, and I think I like most of the other bards that are in those competitions. Do find that sometimes the competition aspect gives me a little more nerves, and I think that like for me it's more fun than it is sort of about the competition and the recognition. Again, my overall like idea and purpose for doing it is to bring joy to others. So yes, I probably will enter the competition again at some point when it's convenient and close by and sort of works with my schedule. So yeah, I'll probably do it again, and I definitely enjoyed it more so that I get to meet other people who are also performing and get to see what other people are doing and how they're interpreting the bardic arts modernly and so yeah, like I really enjoy sort of seeing how others are sharing their gifts and seeing what talents that they have. So I will definitely do it again at some point in the future.
Gotcha.
I'm going to say it hammered dulcimer. So,
The hammered dulcimer is really interesting. I think maybe it was a couple of years ago. Bethany found one on Facebook Marketplace, and it was right around my birthday. So she surprised me with it for my birthday a couple of years ago, and I have no idea like what it was, how to use it. There's so many strings on there, and it was old, and it needed to be restrung, and it needed to be retuned. So I kind of had to start from the beginning, like what is it? Where did it come from? How did it develop? And then learn how to like functionally take care of the instrument. And it is really fun. And what I love about it is it feels very similar to like playing like a xylophone or some of those like malleted percussion instruments. The layout of the notes on it is wildly different than sort of what I'm used to on a keyboard. On a keyboard, everything is laid out in a perfect straight line in order. And then on the hammered dulcimer, everything is done in like sets of four up and down the instrument. And so on the left side and the right hand side. And so it's a really interesting way to have to sort of think differently about, where the notes land. So there's a little bit of training that has to happen for me that I've been working on to try to make sure that I know that I'm going in the right place versus what I would normally try to do. Um, when I play. But it's been a lot of fun. I've got some books that are teaching me some of the foundations and some of the beginning things. But what I like about it is it allows me, unlike the recorder, which I can only play one note at a time, this gives me the ability to create, a soundscape and sort of allows me to play multiple notes at the same time. The resonance on it sort of allows some of the notes to continue to resonate. So it gives a little bit more of an ethereal quality and ethereal vibe. Ultimately, I hope to be able to sing while doing it at the same time. Who knows? But
Wow.
it's a lot of fun, and it's just a beautiful instrument. I think we've all seen Vince Conway at Penzic, and watching him play, it is mesmerizing, and and it'll take your breath away for a moment, and he's incredible at what he does. And so yeah, like I am interested in learning it just a little bit more. I haven't seen a lot of people doing it, and so I think as I sort of get my chops up a little bit better, that's probably one area that I want to sort of showcase a little bit more.
Awesome. So, is that the new instrument that you were talking about, Lucas, that you wanted
yeah,
to
yeah,
use?
yeah. That's
Okay.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
So leather work. I had the chance to watch you make a pair of period shoes at Penzic last year, which
Mhm.
was fascinating. What got you into leather work?
I I don't know. I think that I think initially I was drawn to it. So one of our campmates, Ryan Deemer, Alf, was is fantastic at leatherwork. His craftsmanship is impeccable, and I watched him a few years ago make pouches, and he showed me sort of the basics of it as he was working on it, and I got interested in seeing it and seeing him do it, and went and picked up a little piece of leather, and I was like, all right, well, let's see if I can do this. And he worked with me like right next to me as I worked through my first pattern, and he allowed me to use some of his tools, and I was able to make my own 14th century kidney shaped pouch in a couple of days. And I was like, this is fascinating. Like, this is really cool. I love, being able to take raw materials and make something out of nothing, and create something that wasn't there before. Um, and leather is incredibly unforgiving. So you've got to be precise. You've got to be, you can't make a mistake, or if you make a mistake, it's really difficult to hide. So there's a precision involved that I really sort of respond to, and that forces me to really think through and be specific and intentional with all of the work that I do. But yeah, leather I think is it's beautiful to work with. You can make a lot of things with it. Um, and again, I think the craftsmanship, like, there are just some beautiful pieces that you can find, that some extant pieces that exist, some, bags and doublets. And I think one of my big pieces that I'm really looking forward to is there was a 16th century like youth leather jerkin that was made that has all of these the pinking in it, and I'm really excited to try to take that pattern and sort of make it so that I can wear one. And that's sort of the my next like magnum opus piece that I want to do with some leather in the future. And so I'm trying to come through and look at all of the different stitches and make sure that I can execute them, in a way that will honor the original piece. And yeah, and so I think that as I'm learning some of the late period garb work so that I understand the shapes and the construction process for some of these pieces, then I want to translate it into the medium of leather, which is one that I really enjoy working with. And yeah, and so I think that's sort of what I'm really interested in as far as leather. And I think the shoe process, which was incredibly fascinating this past Penzic. I needed a pair of shoes for my costume when I was in Everyman. And so I was like, well, I'm here. Let's just make them. Let's see what we can do. And so, I thankfully I had to work a little bit while I was at Penn State, so I had my computer, so I was able to do some research pretty quickly, and found, some easy ways to recreate those shoes, and found some patterns from some extant pieces, and was like, all right, well, let's see what we can do. And so that was sort of what helped me to, move a little bit forward in that direction. And it turns out it's fairly easy to do. Obviously, there's some craftsmanship things that I've learned along the way. But yeah, it was a fun process. And when I entered them into the baronial ANS competition at Penzic, I got a lot of feedback regarding the patterning process. And so I just recently got some books that I'm looking into how period shoe patterns were created. And so that way I can sort of then have a historical process for creating the patterns for the shoes that I want to make, which I think will also help with some of that craftsmanship process. Um, so yeah, like it's fun. And, shoes are notoriously difficult. And they require some precision work. Again, you're dealing with leather. And yeah, and so I'm really enjoying going down that path and sort of seeing what's there.
So with the shoes themselves, the people that didn't see them, what is the whole thing is leather, soles and everything, and the
Yep.
construction there. There's not just it's all leather.
Everything is all leather. Yep. So there's two different weights of leather for the upper, or one for the upper, one for the lower. Um, and all of the techniques were all done by it was all done by hand, period techniques, the sinew cords to be able to do the saddle stitching. I just used a regular handheld awl. No nails. There are some nails that you'll see in some period pieces. This one didn't have any. Everything could be done just with the stitching. And yeah, every piece of it was all leather, all done by hand, and a blade. So it was cool.
Wow.
I was preoccupied trying to remember my lines, so I didn't look at your feet all that much. I remember the shoes.
Yep.
You listed in your bio that you recently received a really incredible award, and that is the Maunch. For those people who are not from the East Kingdom, can you tell us what the Maunch is?
Yeah, so the Monch is the grant level award. It's like the second tier award for the arts and sciences. And so that means that it's a polled order. And so that means that the group of people that are already inducted into that order get to vote on whether they think that your work is should allow you to be able to be a part of that particular order. So it's a high esteem, and it was a surprise, and it was incredible honor to be inducted into that particular order for a variety of reasons. I think that their majesties gave such great compliments. I have sort of a breadth of knowledge. I don't have a lot of deep knowledge in any one particular area. I mean, I think that sort of just speaks to the my interest and constantly shifting and moving to see what new thing I can learn and figure out. From the bardic arts to knitting to leatherwork to shoes to garb making and all. And so I think that was an opportunity that I got to see that, okay, so, I think that I am doing some work that people find to be interesting. And so I do have a little bit of a voice and some things to say in some of these areas. And so it was a little bit of a humbling experience because I didn't expect it, nor did I know that it was coming. Um, but yeah, it was a welcome surprise.
Well, I was very happy for you when I heard the news, so
Thank you.
congratulations again. You just mentioned garb making. Now
Mhm.
you have a leg up from the rest of us because your wife is a professional costumer for a university.
Yes.
So, I'm just curious about how much she helps you versus how much you have because you make different time periods as far as I know.
Mhm.
So how has having a customer set a bar for you that most of us in the SCA don't have?
It is a double-edged sword, I have to say. I think in general, though, she is so selfless in that she has made a ton of pieces for me. So my signature white hood with all of the embroidery, she made that all for me. And so she makes sure that I'm gonna look good. And I think early on in our SCA career, she did a lot of the heavy lifting when it came to most of the garb. I do a lot of the cutting for us just because I love that process. I love laying out the patterns and cutting things and trying to conserve fabric and things like that. But she does a lot of the actual construction, particularly early. However, we just had Setmore Swamp just had our Venetian event, and it was, set in 1560 in Venice. And those clothes are can be complicated, and they are quite labor intensive. And it was really important for me to do as much of that process on my own as I could. And I got pretty close. I only needed a little bit of help at the very end with my undershirt, just because I was it was literally the day before and we were trying to scramble and get finished. I was trying to be virtuous and do everything by hand and flat fell all of the seams by hand, and I just ran out of time, and I was like, can you please just help get this through the finish line while I could pack things up because we had to set up and decorate the space. And so she did a really great job. Uh, but yeah, so with her, she is quick to be able to help make sure that I'm doing things in the right order, can help provide some insight into, this is a little trick to help you do it this way. And so, and when you make a mistake, like inevitably I do, she's gonna help me try to figure out how to salvage it and fix it. Like, for example, on one of the sleeves for my Venetian outfit, I didn't flip the pattern over, so I cut two of the same sleeve. So then I had to come through and piece it together and try to figure out because I ran out of fabric because we bought just enough. So always buy extra. That's one thing I learned. But yeah, so her eye and her skills are incredible, and so she has ways to and she has access to tables to give me the space that I need, and yeah, so she's going to help. But she's now gotten to a place where she knows that I have been right there with her as we work through a lot of these things, and I now go and help her make costumes for her some of her productions, so that I can build my skills as well. And I think most of that showed in the Venetian outfit, which all of that I had basically done on my own. Including all of the hand trim, velvet trim on every single one of those paintings. It was like 30 hours of just trim work. And it was a lot. It was a lot, but I couldn't be more proud. And I think that there is a level of pride that you get, that I have now with these clothes that I can put on and say, no, this is something that I did. This is the work that I put into it. This is the amount of effort and love that I got to put into it. And it sort of gives me a little bit of a different perspective on the work that she did to help me early on in our career. And now I can sort of pay that back by helping her with some of her stuff.
So let's switch gears a little bit. So fencing. Um, did you start right away? Did you, you know what I
Yep,
mean? And then that was the bug. Because I'm I've watched you in tournament. I think you're very good. And so talk to you a little bit about that. Kind of running alongside all these arts and science things too.
absolutely. Yeah, fencing it was the thing that Bethany knew that I needed to keep me coming back, right? If it were just probably the arts and sciences, I don't know that I necessarily would have been as invested so quickly. But again, I had seen my nephew's Olympic fencing class, and I got really interested in that. And I had talked to Bethany. This was before we'd even joined the SCA. I think I wanted to find a fencing class, and so when we were searching for fencing that was near us, we found that there was an actual SCA fencing practice that was not too far from where we lived. And though it's not Olympic fencing, it's fencing, and I didn't care whether we do it in a straight line with modern techniques. I just wanted to fence. I wanted to hit people with swords. Um, and so we found that. And so after that first Scola that we went to, it was in Hartswarndale. But after that first Scola that we went to, we found that fencing practice, and that's where I went. And this was back when in Setmore Swamp when it was at Glen Gardner, and I was immediately bitten by the bug, and I loved it. Like it's the thing that really gives me a lot of joy. So I get to do some physical activity, and there's a lot of parallels between fencing and sort of movement and dance. And I have a lot of dance training back from school when I did theater and stuff like that. So it was one of those things that I have a lot of natural abilities in fencing, so I was able to pick it up pretty quickly. I'm also, 6'2", and I have very long arms, so I'm at a unusually lucky dis or advantage compared to a lot of other people. So like I'm kind of built for it. And so it was sort of the cross section of all the things that made it work. And so I loved it. It was fun. I enjoyed it. And yeah, I love fencing, and there's so many different fencing styles and different ways to approach that problem. You can do it with modern techniques. You can learn all of these historical techniques, and they have different things to teach you and different things to add to your toolbox. And yeah, I really have enjoyed fencing. The community, the fencing community is also really supportive that I've really found. And you know, you get to see the same people over and over again. You get to go out and I think fencing and some of the melee battles that we have in Penzic is some of the most fun that I have all year. The woods battle will always be my favorite. You know, I'm not baking in the sun, but we all get to work together as a unit, and it's just it's chaos, and it's organized chaos at times, and it's just incredible. Like the relationships I think that you get in the fencing community is so different because, you know, we're working together. We're trying to kill our friends and not hurt them, but just actually kill them so that you can get a point. And it's a lot of fun. And it's something that I will probably always continue to do.
Did you ever try your hand at heavy?
I've not. Um, I had thought about it for a while, but you know, in fencing, all you have to do is tap somebody with it. I don't have a necessary need to have people just wail on me. Uh, you know, so that doesn't necessarily speak to who I am, and the things that sort of I enjoy. I'm not going to say that it's a hard no because I would certainly try it and just to see. I haven't at this point, but you know, maybe one day and down the line, we'll see.
I want to circle back
Mhm.
to the Venetian event.
Yes.
What was the Venetian event? All I've seen are after reports, but I've never seen anything. I don't live in your kingdom, so I knew nothing
Sure.
about this event.
The Venetian event was actually the product of an idea that was brought up about 2 years ago by Marcus Farmather. And, you know, he wanted to create a fully immersive event that was themed around a Venetian carnival. And so, you know, there was a small team of us that got together and figured out, you know, the entire event. So we knew that we wanted to center on the feast. We have an incredible professional cook named Chris Stanley in our kingdom or in our barony, and he has created some of the most technically impressive and delicious feasts that we have had, that I've ever gotten to experience. Um, and so he puts such rigorous work into the menus that he creates, into the techniques that he uses. And yeah, you know, he works at a restaurant in New York City, so we know we're getting some of the best of the best. And so this event was really sort of born out of the idea that we wanted to create what would it have been like to come to an estate and participate in the Venetian Carnival. We knew that there would be dancing, so we had two different sets of dancing involved. We knew there would probably be some commedia performances, so we had the commedia troupe come through and perform for us. We knew that there would be live music the entire time, so we had live musicians that played music for 7 hours throughout the entire event. You know, there was a full procession through the feast so that everybody could get through and show off their clothes. We had probably the most impressive scenery piece that we had the Honorable Lady Emmeline Lechaussière created a full-scale replica backdrop of Serlio's comedic backdrop. She used like everything about it was used with period intent, from the pigments to the paint brushes to the linen to the rabbit glue sizing, everything. And it was, you know, one of the first times that we saw forced perspective backdrops, and it came right out of that time period. And so that's where, you know, you see a lot of the painted backdrop of the Venetian streets. And that was where most everybody took their photos, and yeah, so that was the event. We had period games as well. So we had a variety of different period games that would have been available at that time and that we all got to play. So, and it was, we were able to move through each different area and each different activity. I had the pleasure of being able to herald the event to keep it on schedule and move people from one place to the next and announce all of the different portions and parts of the event. And it all culminated after, so we started with the period games. Then we moved into the dance hall. We did a little bit of learning some dances, so that we could have our candlelight dance at the end of the night, which was incredible. After that, the dance, we moved back into the main hall so that we could watch the Commedia performance. After the Commedia performance, we moved into an incredible four-course, 19-dish feast that lasted almost 3 hours, and every dish was better than the one before. It was an incredible feat, culinary feat, and it was amazing to be able to partake of that. After we had our feast, we then moved back into the dance hall for our final candlelight ball, and it was the Grand Mask. And so we all got to then take all the dances that we learned earlier that day, and we got to perform them that night. And then most of those dances happened to be slightly earlier in time, just because if you're teaching them, the 16th century dances tend to be much more complex, and we knew we couldn't teach that. But then we had an exhibition. So Justin Ducour and Duchess Thera were able to perform for us, and we got to see what an actual period dance would have looked like. And it was all by candlelight with musicians playing by candlelight. It was pretty incredible. It was magical, I have to say.
Wow, I'm sorry I couldn't come out for it. That
I
Yeah.
I didn't hear about it until afterwards. So,
Oh
uh,
wow. Oh no.
so are you guys thinking of doing another event like that?
Yeah, so there are it's something that we do a couple of, every few years or so. So we had a Welsh event, the Festipen, probably 6 years ago. That was another one of these immersive events. And now there's talk of doing a full Tudor 12th night in 2028. So we're still really early in the works with that. But so we'll see. But I certainly think there will be some more late period immersive events. I think that working through this process, particularly from a garb perspective, we have we have demystified a lot of the fears with making late period garb. And so, I think that now asking people to do this a second time um, probably won't be quite as difficult than the first time. There was a lot of fear and trepidation going into the clothing aspect for this event, and we had numerous workshops to make sure that people felt comfortable and if they needed help. I think for me at the event when people got to process through and bow for the Baron and Baroness and show off their clothes, I think it was incredible to see just the pride that everybody had. It was great.
Wow, you guys should do like a Venetian night at Penzic.
Oh, that would be great.
Yeah,
I
like
love
even
that.
if it's just everybody wear the garb they made and you go out.
Yeah. Yeah. Feels like
Yeah.
Midnight Madness. That's what we should do. A
Yeah,
Venetian Midnight Madness.
that would be awesome.
Yeah. But yeah, it's great. It was great. So hopefully we'll do another 12th night and, clothes will be very similar. So we'll be in good company.
Nice.
uh something that's not on your list, that I know is that you and your wife are also very much into the service of the barony,
Mm.
as well. You
Mhm.
guys, what are some events you particularly run that you like, that that you felt like went well and whatnot, and how did you like get involved in more of that aspect as you kind of progressed in your ANS and your marshal and whatnot, and then got involved in that? What talk a little bit about that experience?
Yeah, service to the barony has been something that we've both been doing for years. Probably very early on, we sort of got involved in trying to help make some of this stuff happen. And so Events sort of came later for us. We've both been officers in the barony for years, sort of just trading different things. I've been exchequer. I've been the deputy. I've been exchequer starting back in 2019, and I've been deputy exchequer ever since. I'm now the Central Region deputy exchequer for the kingdom as well, and I've been doing that for about 2 years. But we did try our hand at autocrating an event. It was Quest, not last year, but the year before. And it was the William Shakespeare Quest. And it was hands down the most fun that I've had. I think doing the fun little performance that we did during the feast was just a lot of fun. The actual quest was really fun. I got to dress up and play Shakespeare for that event. And so yeah, but we're still officers and just making sure that we've got all the things that we need to make sure that the barony can do what the barony does best, and that's put on these events.
Awesome. All right, we're almost
Mhm.
out of time, so it's time for the last question.
Mhm.
What can the SCA do better?
Hmm. I think the SCA, I think one thing when I think about what makes things the most successful and what people tend to respond to the most is the connections and the relationships that are made and built. And I think that the SCA can always do better with making sure that those relationships don't take the back seat. That these awards are great, these events are great, but when it no longer serves the populace in community building and relationship building, I think that we're sort of doing a disservice to the populace. Um, and and so I think and it's really sort of an individual thing, like we all just need to remember that we're here together to participate together to do this together. And so, yeah, for me, it's remember that every time that you're interacting with others, that we're here to try to build up these relationships, and sometimes we lose sight of that, and I'm guilty of it too. I get, if I'm stressed and I'm trying to get something finished and done for an event, and I lose my temper with, something, a sewing machine, and I sort of like lose my patience, but just remember that like we're here because we all want to be. We all do this for fun, and it's at the end of the day, it's all made up. It doesn't really matter, right? But what does matter is these relationships that we have. And that's what people remember. People come back to events not because there was just fighting, but because they got to fight somebody that they really enjoyed. They learned something. They had a connection with somebody else. That's what keeps us coming back. If we didn't enjoy the people that were around, we wouldn't come back. And so to me, the SCA can really remember that these relationships are what keep this dream going.
Great. All right, thank you so much, Philippe.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. I
Um,
appreciate it.
Lucas and I will be back in 2 weeks with the author Patrick O'Donnell, who wrote Nights Next Door. We're going to be talking with him about that and what he does in the SCA as well. Philippe, thank you for being our guest today. It was wonderful talking with you.
Thank you for having me.
So
This
much.
was a blast. I appreciate it.
All right. Bye, everyone.
Bye.